All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Gridiron Uncensored podcast, Week 5 reaction show. And for our listeners on Spotify that aren't watching live, it's the usual crew, Trevor, Blake, and myself tonight. Week 5, again, crazy football. It's been crazy all year, it feels like. So we're going to go ahead and tap into some of that. AP Top 25 dropped today. We'll cover some of that, some of our Top 25 that I'm going to be pushing out tomorrow. And as you can see up there, that's the AP poll. Bama has moved up into number 1, Texas 2, Ohio State 3, Tennessee 4, and Georgia down to 5. Not really too surprised on it. I think Texas could be there as well, but it's really not that big of a deal. When you look at it, let's talk a little bit of movers and losers across the entire poll, because there's some decent movement this week, everybody. And Bama's jumped up 3 spots, like we said, to number 1. Oregon's and a plethora of other moved up like 2 spots. There's a whole shuffling up of like 2. BYU, though, big move in with 5-spot jump, and then Boise State's moved up 4. Losers, though, we got some big losers. Oklahoma State dropped out of the poll completely. Illinois dropped down 5, even though they played Penn State pretty decently. Louisville's dropped 7. Utah dropped 8, and then Ole Miss 6. I feel like Ole Miss should have dropped a lot further personally. But that's just me. So that's movers and losers. Gents, anything on the AP poll before we talk a little bit about our own?
Georgia should not be ahead of any winless team, undefeated teams, period.
Yeah.
They should not. I know they're great. They are a great team, hands down, no doubt about it. I don't give a rat's ass about any sort of strength of schedule bullshit. No one-loss team should be ahead of undefeated teams this early in the season.
Yeah. I don't necessarily mind that my train of thought, especially like you said, this early. Who are they beaten? Do their schedules stack up? But I don't know. They did keep it close with Bama at the end there, so I think that saved them. If Bama had continued to blow them out, I think they would have dropped pretty far. Blake, what do you think on that?
With the one loss thing, maybe some of the teams they shouldn't be in front of, but I wouldn't say like every team that's undefeated should be ahead of Georgia. Because then you're talking, Ole Miss, LSU, USC, Michigan, they all have losses, and they're in front of Iowa State, BYU, Indiana, etc. And rankings really don't matter at this point in the season, anyways. But it's just really a number to give something to talk about. So
I kind of agree with that, but at the same time, they kind of keep people around the same area. And obviously, this AP poll, it won't matter once the college football playoff comes out, but it does shape opinion. And if you want, Trev, we can jump onto ours. And we went ahead and we got our rankings out. Usually we do this from the start. but it's been a busy year for all of us. So we're getting to it, and here it is, week 5, or I guess it'll be our week 6 AP poll. The week 6 gridiron poll. We did our own votes, and then also you can see this is our composite between all three of us and how we voted. And I'll post that again tomorrow. But just a sneak peek looking at it, seeing how the comments already. But yeah, look, that's what we got. A little different from the AP poll. Again, Ole Miss, when we look at actually how we all three of us voted, I put them a lot further down the line. Georgia, I think we were all kind of similar. Michigan, that was kind of a tough one just because they haven't looked great, but I don't know. I don't know how you put some teams in front of them. I don't know. It's an interesting time of year, and like you said, schedules are starting to shake out, so that'll get more clarity really soon. Trev, if you want to move on to the show them how we all voted, and then we'll jump on to gridlocks and all that good stuff.
Okay. Yeah, give me a. Okay.
Yeah, that's our polls. Maybe you can see how we all voted. Like I said, we'll post all this stuff on social media so you guys can see that. But it's just hey, get an idea of how we're feeling about these teams, and like some of these group of 5 teams, I think could even jump into the top 25 over some of these 1-loss teams that are just not looking great. But it's kind of like the back end of the top 25 is so hard to pick. So. Don't get offended. Don't get triggered. It's just how it is. Either way, let's move on. We talked a little bit about top 25. Gridlocks, pick 'em, all that stuff. Next up, we're going to talk about, kind of our stats. I'll pull up let me get out my sheet here. Gridlocks. So
whole lot of red. Whole lot of fucking red for Trevor over here. Put the kids to bed because Trevor's going to cuss a lot in this episode.
Like picks have been pretty decent at times, but this week was brutal for old Trev. And he had a good week last week.
I quit.
He had a good week last week, Trev. It's okay.
And I followed it up with damn near an offer. Might as well have been an offer because the only one I got was USC, and that was a gimme almost.
It's remarkable.
Oh my God, yeah. A lot of the games could have went either way, though. I mean, Illinois was in their game till the end. Yeah, Utah just don't have it without Cam Rising, and then Arkansas, they had multiple opportunities. Auburn, they choked it away at the end. So I mean, you could have just as easily went undefeated. I mean.
Mm-hmm.
You took risks.
That's a very kind spin you did there, Blake. But
it's factual. It's the truth.
It's facts. Yeah. All right.
Hey, I mean, look, any of these teams, it kind of goes back to our rankings. It's hard to judge some of these teams right now. And like Utah without Rising, I dropped them pretty low in my rankings just because they just don't look. I mean, they've got a good defense, all this stuff, but when you can't move the ball on offense. It's not going to happen. Notre Dame, you lost to Northern Illinois. You should drop further than where you're currently ranked. I'm sorry, I don't like where they're at. But any of these teams, it's just a random year, and it's feeling like it's going to even get worse as we go along. Boys, anything else on these picks? Barbara question is Rising out for the season. When we talk about Utah, I don't know. I feel like he shouldn't be. He had a hand injury, 2 weeks ago? And I haven't heard anything else. It's like he's just kind of lingering. So I have no idea. But it's the same tale as last season.
He's very fragile. I mean, he's like the Tua of college football. I mean, last year, I mean, he really is. I mean, this was 2 weeks ago, and they were talking about him playing last weekend, and now he is out again the following week. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, somebody mentioned that he's trying to fleece the program. He's like, he knows he's not getting drafted. He's getting hurt. So he's just like, hey, I'm going to collect this money. I mean, might as well. Might as well, baby. I don't think he can redshirt again. But real quick, when we're talking about our pick'em totals and Blake went 6-4 this week. I went 8-2. Trev 1-9. Sorry,
Everyone
buddy,
knows
I
what I went.
it.
Everyone knows what I went.
Total, the cumulative score 35-19 for myself. Trev 27-27, and then Blake 32-22. So still not that far apart. Anything can happen any week. Gridlock though, rough year for Gridlocks, man. Trev, it's been god dang. I'm surprised that I'm leading the Gridlocks this year. I'm 3-2 currently. Trevor is 1-4, and Blake is 1-4 on the Gridlocks.
All I'm going to say is Trevor's making some guaranteed picks the next couple weeks.
Hey, but when it comes down to scores, because when we do the Gridlocks, it's based on points in a value key. Trevor is in second place with 4 points. Blake is in last with 3 points, and I've got 7 points. So, excuse me,
maybe I won't go
9 points. So it's not too big of a difference, but it can easily be overcome. I added another point bracket like we mentioned last week.
Yeah.
So if you go for the 10-fers, boys, or 10 or higher, you're getting 5 points. But either way, that's our Gridlocks. TCU helped me out big time this week. Oklahoma State took a dump. It's a damn shame. Gentlemen, let's go ahead. Let's talk some football. That's kind of the rundown of what we do prior to this. So Alabama, Georgia, biggest game of the week, and it at first people were turning it off. They're like, "This game's done. It's over." And I feel like maybe Alabama thought it was too. And then all of a sudden, Georgia's comes roaring back in the second half, and they almost won, except for Ryan Williams. He saved the day at the end.
Ryan Williams,
yeah,
that kid is
crazy,
amazing.
Man. Yeah,
that
Blake give us your feel on it, and then Trevor and I will give us ours from the outside looking in.
I don't think from a player perspective that it was something that the players thought they had it locked up. I think second half was more of a play calling, too conservative. They took the foot off the gas. A lot of quarterback runs. The running backs didn't get a lot of carries at all in the second half. And the ones they did were, right up the middle into the trenches of that Georgia front. So I wasn't crazy about it. I feel like maybe Sheridan kind of was like, let's get out of here. We're up 30-7. Let's just call it and kind of run this clock out. But that didn't work. I wish we would have just stayed with the original game plan. The first half there was a ton of motion plays and getting people quick out to the sidelines and the perimeter. And Georgia was really struggling to get out and stop our speed because they got a lot of big bodies on the defense. And, we were killing them on those perimeter runs. And then in the second half, it just went away. I mean, we didn't do it. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter talking about the trick plays, like the flea flickers and the reverse passes we tried that didn't work. It doesn't always have to work, but it puts it in Georgia's mind like, hey, we got to watch for this. And so when you run those sweeps to the outside and everything, they don't know should they attack that angle or do they need to play back for a pass. And it just creates a lot of confusion on the defense. So the play doesn't always have to work for it to be effective throughout the game. But, I don't like the conservative play calling there. I felt like we should have stayed aggressive. But offensively, I don't think you could have asked for more out of our offense. Our offensive line played a great game. Milroe was damn near perfect. Ron Williams is a freak of nature. We had 11 different receivers catch passes in that game. There really wasn't much else you could do on offense. But when it came down to it at the end of the game and we went back to running tempo, they couldn't stop us. We went right down the field and scored. So, I like the direction we're going, and I know we're capable now. We just have to – the play calling has to show our talents and showcase what we've got. Defensively, though, just like I said, our defensive backs and our secondary was our weak point, and they straight exploited that. We did get better toward the end of the midway through and toward the end of the fourth quarter. They started covering some of those little in between the zones was where they was really catching those young guys. Damani Jackson, he blew a couple, Saab blew a couple, and you could tell there was some confusion between those two, especially there on that left side. But they pulled it together when it mattered. And people forget, I mean, Georgia was the number 2 team in the country. I mean, and up until that, the second half, everybody just kind of wrote them off. I kept seeing people saying Georgia sucks, this, that, and the other. But I mean, they're a top team for a reason. And I mean, they can play with anybody in the country. I mean, they smoked Clemson the first week of college football, and Clemson's really turned around since then. And Kentucky, I mean, look what they're doing. So I don't think that people writing Georgia off is like the right approach to it. But all in all, I'm pleased with the way Bama played. Is from the player perspective. I just didn't like the play calling in the second half.
As far as everybody writing them off, I'm sure Kirby Smart's thanking them very, very, very much so right now. Keep writing them off, because those players are going to eat that up, because they haven't been dogged on like that for a couple years now. No pun intended. But for Georgia, I thought that they didn't exploit that secondary as much as they should have. I thought Beck he had a horrible first half. The announcer said it in the first part of the first half, is like, he's just not seeing the field. He's not seeing the plays developing. He's not seeing where these defenders are dropping off. He's just, I don't know, whatever it was, it wasn't all clicking for him. And as far as the secondary for Alabama, I thought did a great job the latter part of the second half of adjusting, especially that freshman. He learned his lesson from the first time, where when you're in man, you don't really turn your back. And he did a good job of backing off and waiting for that pass to happen to seal up that interception. God dang it. And I'll tell you this much, is that Ryan Williams is a freak of absolute nature. And I know Milroe had a really good game, hands down. The play calling wasn't the greatest, but I also thought that Milroe's execution in the second half wasn't very good either. I thought overall in the second half, I didn't think his execution of the play calls was as clean as it was in the first half. So I think there's some things to clean up still, even though Alabama played a hell of a game. And obviously Georgia has a lot to clean up as far as their execution from start to finish.
Yeah, for me, again, you got to give Georgia props for second half adjustments, even though, play calling did change. They turned it around too. So you got to give Georgia some credit. And then Beck too. He really got his mind right in that second half, because before that he was staring down receivers. I mean, he was just like throwing ducks, man. It did not look good. But
it was hilarious how the camera would like zoom in on him. Like, look at how he's just following the receiver.
Yeah.
Well, one thing too, in the first half, we was bringing 6, 7. There was plays where we even brought 8 players, but in the second half, we was bringing 3, 4. A couple of times we brought 5. We just didn't apply the pressure in the second half like we did. And I really thought after those first couple of drives, when they drove down on us, that we would start doing that again, and we just never really did until toward the end of the fourth quarter, which I didn't understand, because that's what was throwing him off. I mean, he had more pressure in the first half of that game than he had all season from any other game he's played. And I didn't understand why we wasn't putting the pressure in the second half like we did in the first.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And honestly, that goes back to play calling both sides of the ball. But to be fair, you see that kind of with Washington too, with when DeBoer was up there offensively as well. He continued to pass the ball when you really need to run the clock out. And you're looking at carries. Milroe had 16 carries for 117. That's wonderful. Most of that came in the first half. Outside of that, Justice had 6 carries. Jam Miller had 5. You need to, towards the end of that game, they left so much time on the table for Georgia to come back. You've got to
We ran 3. They had 3 carries by running backs in the second half.
Yeah.
And that's about like the execution. I think Milrow only threw 6 or 7 passes in the second half. Most of our second half was, 3 and outs, and it was quarterback run left, quarterback run right, incomplete pass, punt. So I mean, it was just, it was kind of bad, really bad.
It's the perfect storm of a comeback, and not to shift too much out of this game, but just the Michigan game against Minnesota, the exact same thing. You get a good lead, you have one bad turnover, and that's like turtle mode. It's like, okay, we're done. We're just gonna try to get out of here, milk some clock, hopefully get a first down. Oh, it didn't happen. Oh shit, they scored. All right, well, let's try it again. Run this clock. Oh, it didn't happen. Oh shoot, a bad punt return. Little things like that can change a game so fast. So I hate when teams do that, but they continue to do it every single year. But like I said, I don't know. Great game. Not taking away anything from Georgia. Bama did a wonderful job that game outside of the play calling in the second half. Georgia, I still think they're a little different than what they were before. They obviously very talented. They need to work out some kinks and figure out some release valves, whether it's Delp or somebody.
And I will say it right now. Beck is not, and I repeat, will not be in the Heisman race. Man, I said it before the season. Yeah. I do not think he is a Heisman quarterback.
I think he'll go as far as Georgia does because they give it a lot to the team as well. But but that game getting close will help him a little bit. But I think there's others in the running for it right now that are not Carson Beck.
Yeah, Ryan Williams just put his name in the hat for Heisman.
That was just nuts. If he keeps it up, it's one of those receivers.
If he keeps the season that he's having up, there's a legitimate argument for him to be another Alabama wide receiver grabbing the Heisman.
Very possibly, guys. Let's move on. Let's talk another game. Kind of talk about Heisman people, Heisman hopefuls that people mentioned in the preseason. Jackson Dart was one of them, and I don't see it, gentlemen. Kentucky goes in, they beat Ole Miss. Ole Miss was number 6. Dart didn't have a horrible game, not putting everything on him, but just I don't know. I feel like you cannot, with the team that they stacked up in the preseason, you can't go and lose to Kentucky like that, who's already had struggles at quarterback themselves. But I mean, they went in, Kentucky 93 yards rushing. They used Gavin Wimsatt more. Who's pretty much a glorified running back who can pass a little bit. He came in from Rutgers. They were happy he left, to be honest with you. But Vandegrift, a little bit better than what he's been doing. He had 243 yards.
I watched most of that game. He played a good game.
Yeah. So
he made a lot of good decisions.
Yeah, it's interesting where this team is coming from. And look, preseason, we even said Kentucky has a good team. It all goes on this quarterback play and offensive line. And looks like they did pretty decently defensively as well. 4 sacks on the day, 7 tackles for loss. Just stopping Ole Miss, and Ole Miss just could not get anything going in that first half or in the fourth quarter. Guys, what do you think on that one?
That game was just super impressive to me, just for the simple fact that it was at Ole Miss, and that Kentucky just came in like they owned the joint, and from start to finish, they outplayed Ole Miss from start to finish. And I thought Vandegrift made a ton of great decisions, stuff that I didn't think he was making a week or two before. They cleaned that up pretty quickly, and if it wasn't there, he was running with it. He just tucked it and took off and got the first downs when he needed to. And I was super impressed with Vandegrift on this game.
I think Ole Miss was just very sloppy the entire game. Like from a totality standpoint, I know statistically they was decent, but they just didn't play to that level they had played most of the season. Mm-hmm. Kentucky, I think they learned a lot from the Georgia loss. They was much more aggressive in this game with their play calling. The 4th down at the end there, I mean, they wouldn't have done that in the Georgia game. And I think he realized if you're going to win these big games, you have to take those kinds of risks. And it paid off for him in this one.
Crush the jugular. The jugular.
Yep.
You got to risk it for the biscuit, boys. And they didn't do it against Georgia. They should be 4-1 right now.
He was hungry.
They should be 4-1 right now.
They should have beaten Georgia. They should have, yes.
Yeah. But hey, look, you learn, and teams develop and grow, and some regress. Some do. So I'm curious to see where this Kentucky team goes. I'm not completely out on them being good. I'm curious because last couple weeks
we'll see how they follow up a big win.
They got smoked by South Carolina. It's just, but again, teams can change.
We'll see. We'll just have to see how they follow up a big win.
Yeah. Ole Miss though, 1 for 10 on third downs.
Yeah,
1 for 10.
Not going to win a game with that.
Horrible. Especially you spend all that money in the off season. Shit's embarrassing, to be honest with you. Yeah. Let's jump on, talk a little bit. Penn State, Illinois. Penn State won 21-7. And honestly, Illinois has been looking pretty solid this year. I know they lost. They dropped down the rankings a little bit, but I don't know. I don't mind this team. Running wise, it's still not completely there. Fagan's not a bad back. But they also gave up a ton on the ground to Penn State, 241 on the deck. And then Drew Allar was pretty much – he was okay at 15 of 21, but, I mean, it's like they weren't asking him to really do too much.
I need a team to put down Penn State. I need someone to put down Penn State. I am so tired of seeing them in the top 10. Like, this is ridiculous.
Well, hey, they don't play Michigan this year, so that won't happen.
I know. For the first time in my lifetime, I may actually root for Ohio State to beat Penn State.
Yeah, I mean,
that's usually who gets them anyways.
It's usually the ones that's the one that'll get them. Yeah.
Yeah. But just an interesting set. Their defense did tear it up, those 7 sacks. That's the stuff you expect from Penn State over the last few years. Solid, strong defense. And they did it this game. They shut down Illinois. But keep an eye out for Illinois. Don't count them off just yet. They're 4-1, 1-1 in conference. Anything else on that one, boys?
Yeah, just overall with Penn State, I'm just not sold on that offense in general. Like, I understand that they ran all over Illinois. I get it. But I'm not sold on Drew Allar. I'm not sold on his throwing ability or his decision-making ability. I just don't think that their defense is there 100%. I think their defense is there. But the offensive side of the ball, if you can make them one-dimensional, I think the game's over for Penn State.
Yeah. I'd like to see Allar in a situation where he has to win the game.
Take over the game. Yep.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Because I don't think he'd be able to do it either. He's never really impressed me. Even yesterday, I mean, like you said, he did what he needed to do, but I just don't see that playmaker ability in him.
No.
Yeah. And I mean, last year, and quarterbacks can change and they can grow. I think Milroe is one that's grown from last season a little
100%.
bit. He's shown tendencies, that still flashback to last season, but he's definitely grown. Allar, we need to see that in big moments. And last year against Michigan, against Ohio State, he could not get there. He was missing wide open targets. Wide receivers didn't necessarily help him either, but still, can he do it in big moments this year? We have yet to see that, and we'll see it probably pretty soon. Let's talk a little Arizona, Utah, gents. Utah, again, the Cam Rising saga continues. They got Isaac Wilson in there. Young guy, 20 of 40 passing, 280 yards, but he threw 2 picks. Michael Bernard's a good running back. Yeah, I feel like they could have tried to use him more, especially Arizona's had some issues. But Fafita went out. He had a pretty solid game. He did throw a pick, but some of those passes are just beautiful from him. But he's kind of inconsistent this year. But Utah, they're just, again, like we saw last year, not the same team when Rising's not out there. So I
feel like that's what's the word I'm looking for here? Big criticism for the coaching staff of not having depth at the most important position.
Yeah.
Not having a backup when you already know this quarterback that you currently have happens to be also injury prone. And I do not like saying injury prone as a part of it. Like, he's banged up. He gets banged up because he likes to move around the pocket. He likes to take off and run a little bit. He's going to get banged up, and not having a solid number 2. It's showing that the backup was not prepared. And I didn't think he played well, or managed. I feel like this is more of a detriment on the coaching staff than it is on the actual offense and the way they played.
Yeah, I mean, what are they going to do when Rising's not around?
Exactly right.
And he's not anyway. But when he's actually not there, defensively though, they didn't really show up either. Yeah, they had 6 tackles for loss, 1 pass block, but no sacks. where you got to get after Fafita and force him into danger.
Yeah, exactly right. You got to make him stressed. You got to stress him and force him into mistakes. Because I mean, we saw last year if you weren't making him stressed out, he was going to just pick you apart. He was perfectly okay sitting back there and just picking you apart.
They got one pick, which is nice, but you got to get more pressure. Got to get those sacks. Blake, anything on this one?
Not really. I mean, the offense is awful. They should have lost to Oklahoma State too. I mean, they're at the end of that game. They've got to figure something out, and it's really screwing me over because I picked them to win the Big 12, and now that conference is wide open.
Yeah, I think I did too. Actually,
hey baby, I got Arizona. They're sneaking back, man, just like last year. All right.
I gotta go back. I gotta go back and look. I gotta go back and look.
Oh wait, right.
Hey, they're playing good.
I can't remember if I picked Utah. Well, I think
you picked Oklahoma State.
Oh yeah, I did. I'm still in it, maybe. Not really.
We'll go back and look.
No, they're gone.
The Big 12's wide open.
Not really.
The Big 12's wide open. Okay, I'm projecting because my North Carolina State pick is looking freaking horrible. But let's get out of this conversation and move on to another team. Let's talk about Notre Dame. Look, Notre Dame. I didn't watch the game because I'm pretty sure it was on Peacock, so I'm not buying that. But hey, look, when you look at the box score, Riley Leonard at least threw 2 touchdowns. He's catching up to Alex Orji, maybe tied him now. So that's shocking. But Tyler Shugg, rough game from him, 24-41, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick, which is fine, but you got to get more completion percentage. Running game for Louisville looked solid. Notre Dame kind of surprised me, only at 120 when you're looking at it. Defensively, though, they did get after him enough, 3 sacks. Guys, did any of you watch this game, get anything to see out of it?
No.
Yeah,
I was just following the score. I was just following the score on ESPN app while I was watching other stuff because I don't pay for Peacock, so there's that.
Yeah, Notre Dame's just again a team that's up and down this year, just very strange. Struggle with the MAC. You go out and beat Power 4 teams, but again, 2 for 10 on third downs for Notre Dame. So they found a way to win, but how long is this going to last? I don't know. They've got a kind of easy schedule, so they'll probably slither their way. Keep going up the ranks.
At the end of the day, like the college hierarchy will want Notre Dame in there just because Notre Dame is a name that they would love to have in the playoff.
Yeah, and they just keep weaseling their little way up there. I mean, I could see them sneak in if they go undefeated somehow. Sure. Let's talk about some other weasels, and that's Oklahoma State. Those, I don't know why they're weasels, but by God, look, they got their butts whooped 42-20 by old Kansas State, and we said it in the preseason. This team will go as far as Alan Bowman takes them, and even though he's throwing for 360, 400 yards, that's great and all. Doesn't matter. You got to win the game. Throwing 2 interceptions, give props to Kansas State. They really stepped up. Avery Johnson stepped up. Ollie Gordon still can't get past that 100-yard mark. It's just kind of sluggish, this offense, and something's got to change. I don't know.
I'm just saying it now is I'm not picking Oklahoma State again to win. I swear to God,
they've made the list.
I swear on they've made the list. I'm over it. Like that was horrid.
Like last year they did this crap too.
They did do this. That being said, I wasn't picking them very much last year.
That's true.
That's like I said in the preview for this one. They may be able to throw the football more than any other college in the division. But when you play a team that can run the football versus a team that can throw the football, I'm going to pick the running team every time.
Because they can control that clock. Yep.
Yeah. Well, Oklahoma State's defense they cannot stop the run. And I mean, they get gashed everybody they play. And Kansas State, ran right through them. And that's exactly what I thought was going to happen.
Giddens went off. That dude, 187 yards on the ground.
Yeah.
He's a good little back, man. I like that guy.
He is.
Yes, he did, Barbara. They did get taken to the train station. Yes, they did.
Oh, Lord. Old school football. That's right. That's what you want to see. Old school still wins. If you can pass, that's great, but you got to be able to run the rock.
That's right.
Let's jump on Texas A&M, Arkansas. Another game. Like Arkansas, they cannot get out of their own damn way. And I will credit that last fumble. That was a very nice play out defensively from Texas A&M. But again, when it comes down to it, they're so close. Arkansas is just so close, but they keep screwing themselves. They're 3-2 total, but honestly, they could be 5-0 team.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Taylor Green, he has moments of really good stuff, and then he gets kind of ugly. Jacuna Jackson, quiet, very ugly rushing performance, and give credit to Texas A&M on that. They've got a good front. Defensively, they had 3 sacks, 10 tackles for loss in this game. Boys, anything from this matchup?
I thought just Texas A&M's front, controlled that game. Arkansas, Taylor Green, he had a lot of opportunities to push the ball downfield. He missed a lot of open guys. He did the same thing against Oklahoma State. There were plays there, and he didn't hit them. But I do give credit to A&M's front. I felt like they was in the backfield a lot and putting a lot of pressure on him throughout the game.
Yeah, I agree. Trev?
Yeah, it's just a disappointing outing for Arkansas. It was just another big old L for Trevor over here. So
yeah,
whatever.
I
was so mad when I saw this. I watched the last I want to say 5 minutes of the game. And I was just like, I think I threw the remote. I was just like, delete this. I'm done.
Getting into it.
I was so mad at Arkansas. I was like, you guys blew this game.
Oh my God. Hey, look, Marcel Reed stepping in, 11-22.
Blake, to your point, my list is growing quite extensively on the teams I don't want to pick anymore.
I will never. I know this wasn't. Well, we did pick this one. Never mind. I'll just wait.
Yeah, we went across the board on Arkansas on this one.
Hold on. No, I picked TAMU on this one.
Yeah, Brendan picked. Yeah.
Yep.
Brendan picked A&M.
Hold up, I'm going back.
That was the only game me and him had different.
Oh yeah.
Read them and weep, boys. Read them and weep.
No, SMU, you guys had different as well. Brendan picked SMU.
Oh yeah. That was the one I was gonna say. I will never pick Florida State again.
Yeah, I'm done. I'm done picking them.
Yep.
Hey, you guys win.
They're dead to me.
Won against them last week, and then they won, and then it's like I don't know. But either way, Arkansas got to get out of your own way. I think I like the team. It's just they got to unscrew themselves. Texas A&M though, good win. Let's move on. And one of our followers here on YouTube, he's wondering if we have talked about Colorado yet.
No, we saved the juicy stuff for later.
We found you. Here we are. We're talking Colorado versus UCF. Colorado went out and absolutely destroyed UCF. I'm shocked, to be honest with you.
I was really shocked to see that happen, yes.
I thought UCF would run all over them. I really did. RJ Harvey and the crew. And they still
at least I thought it would be a game. I thought it'd be a game at least.
Yards on the ground, but God dang, man. KJ Jefferson, 2 interceptions, fumbles lost.
Every win they become more obnoxious. Every win. Yeah. Every win I have to hear, treat me like Nick Saban. Oh, we're going to the Natty and all this other stuff. And I'm so tired of hearing about Prime. He needs to retire.
Did they find their defense? I don't know. They had 5 sacks,
found a defense.
Tackles for loss.
Well,
and then Travis Hunter's he's special. I know the team gets a lot of shit, but Travis Hunter's pretty freaking good, man.
Yeah, he's gonna be a first rounder for sure.
I give full credit to Travis Hunter. I think he's a freak of nature. I really do.
Is. He's
amazing. It's the hype, the attitude, the cockiness. Something about Colorado doing it it pisses me off. If it was any other school, I'd probably be okay with it. For some reason I feel like
it's the way that it's all done. It's one thing to be cocky and confident. It's a whole nother level when you're sitting there in live television saying you need to talk to me like I'm Nick Saban, and we're going to the Natty when we're like, I think last year they said we're going to go to the Natty next year, and they were like 3-7 or something like that.
Yeah. Look, right now they're talking and they're backing it up somehow. They're 4-1, boys. They're in Big 12 contention.
They're in it. They're
2-0 in conference. Like, God bless. I swear, he said we're going to the playoffs this year. If they go to the playoffs, you know how.
Oh my God! I'm turning off the TV. I'm just gonna turn it off for a week or two. I can't listen to that because the announcers, all of the announcers have bought into it. All of the personalities on ESPN have definitely bought into it. It's just like it's everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens with them, but I was really shocked with how it turned out. Sanders, I know one of our folks says he's cheeks, but look, I think I can't stand their attitudes, but he's a good quarterback.
He is a good quarterback.
All right. Oh Lord. But either way, Colorado 4-1 somehow. God help us. Let's move on. Let's talk about Miami. Another insufferable fan base, but I do like that the team this year is looking pretty solid. But Virginia Tech finally starting to find some rhythm, find some motion with Tootin back there at running back. Drones had a solid game. Cam Ward again went out slinging. Yeah, he did have 2 picks, but I mean, still 343 yards and 57 on the ground. So good game from him. I'd like to see them lean more on the run though, like with Martinez, because I think he's a talented back. But again, last second controversial play on Thursday night, or was it Friday night?
Friday.
Either way, controversial play. They called it incomplete pass. Virginia Tech probably should have won that game. But when it comes down to it, you can't change it, I guess. So Miami sneaks away with a win. They're lucky. They're very lucky. Defense, want to see a little bit more out of them too, from what they did in the portal. But Miami still moving up 5-0. What do you guys think from that one?
I think Miami did what they had to do. I thought that Cam Ward did what Cam Ward does. Like I said, like I told you guys, I think I mentioned it to y'all. Like I just love watching that guy play. Like seriously, that dude is so entertaining to watch. He is not cheeks. He is not cheeks. I'm using this all the time now. I'm not gonna lie.
It's a great phrase. It really is.
I thought I know he got good numbers, but I felt like he played pretty sloppy in this game. I mean, I watched all of it. He had a few good ones, but I mean, I don't know. He didn't look like the Cam Ward at Washington State to me. In the Virginia Tech game, anyways. But I agree with you about the running game. They're getting kind of like Colorado-esque a little bit, like leaning too much on the quarterback and not really utilizing the run game.
Yeah.
And we've talked about what happens to teams that do that. So,
yep. I mean, the proof is really in the pudding with that. When you rely on the quarterback to do all your running, well, hashtag Florida State found out. They effed around and found out last year, and that's what happens. So, I just think that that's a recipe for disaster if you rely on the quarterback to be the running game.
Most of his runs were on scrambles, like just plays breaking down. He didn't have too many designed runs. They're just not going to the running back on play calling. And
you're right.
And I agree with you, Brendan. I think Martinez is a solid running back, and I feel like he does need to be used more.
Well, to your point about the Colorado thing, it feels like that. It's like when you get a good quarterback and talented wide receivers, you're like, I want to use them every play. I want to, I just want to go out there and sling it. But you're gonna cause interceptions, issues. You have to run and be balanced, even if you have all this talent. Wide receivers, all that. That's wonderful. But if you can't run the football, you're going to let a game get away from you. So I don't know. I want to see more out of the ground game from Miami, but
it's got to be a little for Miami. I agree with you guys. It just has to be a little bit more balanced, just a little bit. It doesn't have to be a ton, but it does have to be a little bit more actual run game instead of Cam Ward doing everything.
Yeah, I agree. Real quick, figure we'll talk a little bit of Michigan just because, that's what we do. We've already talked Bama segment. Michigan-wise, solid first half. Defense was on. Offense was doing, really what it needed to on the ground. And then really in the third quarter, again, Michigan offensively kind of went into turtle mode. There were times that they spread it out, let Orji try to get comfortable, but then he threw a bad interception. He had 2 targets wide open. He had Donovan Edwards on a wheel route for a touchdown, and then he had, honestly, tight end for a touchdown if he hit him right, but he kind of lobbed it up as he was trying to avoid some pressure. After that, it felt like it totally tanked offensively. They were like, okay, we can't have any more turnovers. We're going straight into just, try to get out of this game. And then you had a bad punt return. And then, all these different things lead to Minnesota climbing back into the game. Defensively, I think Michigan's fine. I really do. Offensively, though, they've got to get Orji a little more comfortable. Trev, what do you think about play calling? Because that's one where I mentioned the Alabama game. I didn't like the play calling in the second half at all. First half, I was happy.
Nope, play calling wasn't good. That being said, I saw a market improvement from Orji from week 4 to week 5.
Yeah.
And they actually had some confidence in him attempting throws. He made some really, don't get me wrong, they were medium throws for the most part, nothing spectacular, but they were outside on the edge towards the sideline, and it was in stride for the most part. So I'm taking some grain of salt with this stuff. So as long as every week I see a little bit better decision making. Now, the one thing that will not be an overnight thing is that him working through his progressions, him trying to actually work through progressions. That's something I have yet to see from him. And he is literally reminding me of Jalen Milroe, I think, last year early on, where it was a one read and throw. And it's really kind of like that for Orji right now. But yeah, I and you could see it on his face. Coach Moore was not happy. He was not a happy camper.
I think a lot of that stems from the line.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Sharon's pissed, and that makes me happy that Sharon is not happy. It's easy for a team to win and be like, oh, hey, we got things to work on. No, he was visibly upset because he knows what it takes to win. And I don't like the offensive coordinator right now, to be honest with you. I think the play calling isn't helping, and then the right tackle has been getting beat pretty bad, and that immediately flushes Orji and gets him uncomfortable. Now, there's times when the pocket did hold. Orji made progressions, and he had solid throws, like you said, in stride. But he's just got to build confidence. This is only his second start. So I'm going to give it a little time. I know there's a lot of doom and gloom in the Michigan fan base right now and anger, and I get it. Trust me, I get it. I think
win is a win. Got out of there with a win.
But
they get another week under their belt to kind of try and shore up some of these things. And all you can do is just like next week is just another week to try and improve and be a little bit better.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm not happy with how it's going. You look at like how Bama's come in after they lost a lot, but they're going out and they're playing good, they're improving, but they have a good quarterback. And to me, Michigan has talent. But why didn't Michigan go out and get something in the portal? That's the stuff that pisses me off when I look at this team and the talent that Michigan still has on the roster. So I don't know. Yeah. We'll see what happens Washington next week.
Yeah, I can't do the comparison to Alabama just because their talent pool for wide receivers is so much far and above what Michigan has. Michigan has that wide receiver. They don't have any playmakers as of right now. Even the one receiver that returned, they're just not getting separation. They don't have any explosiveness off the line. So unless they start using, I think Donovan Edwards could be used as a good slot guy if they wanted to try and do that. Have Mullings be the primary and have Donovan Edwards out there as well, do two running back systems while on the at the same time.
You did start to notice that towards the end there, or even early in the game too. At points they had Mullings and Edwards out there, and that kind of screwed the defense up with what they were doing. So we'll see if they continue that trend. But who knows? Washington next week, boys. That's it that I've got on actual games to talk about. I want to go down the line real quick. Just a couple to mention. Clemson, they're roaring back. USC ended up turning around and beating Wisconsin after Wisconsin got a nice start. Oklahoma came back, beat Auburn, even though Oklahoma was down a ton of players. Auburn, they're reeling right now. BYU and Indiana, two teams that are both 5-0. That Indiana was one that we said in the preseason, we don't really know what to expect because so much of this portal, new coaching staff, they're looking good, and I like the attitude from the staff. BYU though, we said it's how's the quarterback play, running game, and they're rolling right now 5-0. So two teams I'm excited for. What do you guys think about BYU, Indiana? Anything real quick before we?
I'm excited about Indiana.
Wrap up
they are going to be a team that is going to be a problem for some of the big guys in the Big Ten. They're gonna cause a lot of problems.
I think BYU is about to do the same thing. Yep.
Yeah.
Both of them are going to be dangerous.
Danger teams, boys.
Yep.
Hey, a 5-0 team that I'm not going to talk about right now too much at all is Duke. 5-0. They barely beat North Carolina, but they did come back, which is great. But how do you let JMU go out and just absolutely smoke North Carolina like that, and then you can't do it the next? I don't know. It's crazy. Football, folks.
JMU's undefeated too.
A couple things on the Group of 5 list. I've got teams to watch. Yeah, exactly. And right now, JMU 5-0, and that's UNLV teams like you said to watch out for on the Group of 5 race. Army, Navy, both undefeated. Eastern Michigan, Blake mentioned these teams earlier. Sam Houston upsets my team that I was going for in Texas State. They're sitting at 4-1, and then of course you got Boise State with a nice win this weekend. So Group of 5 race is really shaping up. I'm excited to see what these academy schools do towards the end of the season. Anything else on that, gentlemen, before we talk a little bit about our kicking it up a notch player and team of the week?
No,
all right, throw that one up there, Trev, when you're able.
Right.
Purdue, also news out of Purdue. They fired their offensive coordinator. First firing of the year that I've seen. They only had 38 points scored in like 3 games. So they kicked into the curb. Oh my God. But when we talk about players of the week and teams that have actually been lighting it up, as you can see on the screen there, Ryan Williams, he got the nod this week for player of the week. And again, this is our fan vote. We asked all the people that listen to the show, Twitter, Facebook, and I consolidate the scores there. And he ended up getting the nod. Jonty from Boise State was right behind, and that dude's a freaking beast, man. He has had a hell of a season. Already got 13 rushing touchdowns on the year. But Ryan Williams saved that game last night. Really, just for such a young player, impressive. I know everybody gets tired here. He's only 17, but still, it's impressive. And then team of the week, our fan vote, it was pretty much unanimous. Kentucky. Again, you go in, you haven't beat, Ole Miss and Oxford in 40-something years, 46 years. So impressive victory from them. A couple others mentioned. Avery Johnson was somebody that was mentioned as somebody that had a really good game, and I think he did bounce back nicely. So, gentlemen, anything that you would add to players of the week? I know, Blake, you mentioned Milroe. Obviously, that's another guy. What do you think?
I mean, Ryan Williams is deserving of it just because of his age, and to do that on that stage and that big of a game of that magnitude, with a lot of celebrities in attendance. There were 80 recruits at that game. I mean, that's insane. And to have a performance like he did, and he doesn't even seem to be fazed by that level of competition. And like you said, it gets annoying even to me constantly hearing 17-year-old. But I mean, in reality, the dude was born the year Saban was hired at Alabama. And now he is he's dominating seasoned veterans at defensive back. And
he was lined up with the most veteran corner that they have at Georgia.
Yeah.
Most of the game.
And and they could not hang with him.
Nope,
so
they couldn't.
That's
and even when they were with
feat.
him, somehow he gets the ball and tips it, does a tip drill to himself, and just like
there's some very talented young wide receivers out there. Jeremiah Smith for Ohio State too. That dude's nasty as well.
Yeah, he's a beast.
Freshman.
He's insane.
So enjoy the show while they're around, guys, because they'll only be in the pros or in the college for 3 years. I had to post this one, bring it up. Blake, the fans want you. The people need you. Where's he at?
I'm here. I gave him a shout out in the comments.
They wanted it live. But all right. Well, hey,
Shout
we
out to
appreciate you guys.
Lexi and Logan.
There it is. Oh my gosh. All right. Well, again, we thank you guys for commenting on all of our stuff. You know, the fan, vote for kicking it up a notch. That helps us a lot. It's a fun little segment. Get to see what you guys think. Another fun week. We're excited for week 6 and what's coming. Again, we'll post all of our graphics over the next day or two. And then also keep an eye out for more write-ups from Blake. And maybe we got a little something coming down the pike. We'll let you know very soon. So again, we appreciate you guys. We hope you comment, share, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff, and we'll catch you around. Anything else before we leave, boys? Round robin call tonight.
Thanks for joining us.
Shout out back.
Godspeed. Oh, shout-outs been taken back. Somebody pissed them off. What happened? Oh, they said I'm the favorite. Oh, see that. Hey, thank you.
Lord.
We love you all.
I just want to say it. Hey, look, right there. There. All right. Somebody's got my back. I appreciate it.
All right,
guys.
All right, we'll holler at you guys later. Good night.
Good night.
Jeez.